we're on to our next topic. Hi, Laura.
Hello.
So we are going to talk about confidence, and I'm really excited to meet our special guest, who I will let you introduce shortly. But why we're going to talk about confidence is because the last few podcasts we've been talking about, what are you going to tell your 20-year-old self, which is all about, getting through the challenges of life. We've talked about how do you actually say yes to the opportunity, take more risks, and all of that. You kind of have to muster a little bit of confidence. And how do you do that? By getting courage to do something a little bit different. So I think, that's the challenge a lot of our audience has. I know I've had it. We all have had it. And I'm so excited to meet Steph. So over to you.
Yes. So I'm delighted to have Stephanie Leahy on the podcast today. So she is somebody who I've known since she was 21, fresh graduate, coming into the corporate world. And she began in the company that I was working at, which is a recruitment company. And anyone who knows what our industry is like, it can be very challenging.
Yes.
And she came in and, just so eager to learn, really impressed me. And we've been friends ever since. So I think the thing about Steph is, I've watched her on this journey in her 20s and go from being a graduate to an exceptional recruiter and then do a remote year working overseas, where I'm sure she will tell us shortly where she travelled and all the experiences that she had. And then step into the role of an entrepreneur and founder for Cloval. And actually the story behind that, which all came off the back of her having the bravery to go and pitch at a startup weekend, I think is really interesting and really is topical when we talk about confidence, because Steph is somebody who is, I've known you for a while. You are not a big extrovert. In fact, you actually are quite introverted. Mm-hmm. You have a massive fear of public speaking. But you did it anyway, and you came second, and now she's got a business. So it's perfect guest to have on the show.
Perfect. Sounds amazing. So how did it all come about? Tell us a little bit, but definitely about the startup weekend and how you pitched.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
then about your journey so far.
So I think a good place to start would be where I was originally working back in 2017. So I was working for an ASX listed company. At that stage, I'd gone through recruitment and thought, I want to climb the corporate ladder. That's something that I want to do. And I remember sitting down with my boss, who I loved, and saying, how am I going? How's this job going? Or what do you think? And she was like, yeah, you're going great. Like in 5 years, you'll probably be a general manager. And it was supposed to be said as a positive thing. And it shocked me. I was like, do I really want to be doing this? And I think that was the pivotal point for me, thinking, what am I actually going to do? Or what do I want to do with my life? And so I started looking at ways that I could travel and work. And that's when Remote Year came along. So I started seeing their marketing. And essentially what they are is a Kentucky for corporate. So you just bring your own job and you work remotely from your laptop and travel around to 12 different countries over 12 months, which is pretty cool.
So that sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was incredible.
People will be looking that up right now.
Yes, Remote Year. I don't get paid for this. But basically, I took that moment to think, I can do this. So I put it to that company. And unfortunately, it wasn't something they could do at that stage. So I decided to quit. And that in itself was one of the biggest risks I think I ever took. And it was so scary because I thought, I'm leaving this safe job with a lot of progression to go and do something else that I had no idea. So I went and worked for a much smaller company and basically said, in tech recruitment, and said, hey, I'll work for 6 months in Brisbane if I'm allowed to go and work remotely for 12 months. And the company agreed. So I went on to do that, and that's when it kind of all began. And I was super introverted at that stage, and I would have never got up in front of a crowd of 120 people. But my year abroad, traveling from Southeast Asia to Europe to South America with a bunch of crazy Americans and Canadians, totally changed my view on everything. It was insane, but in a great way.
So how many countries did you go to?
So technically I worked from 12.
Wow.
But over the course of last year, I think I visited 16, which was awesome.
What an amazing experience.
Yeah. And I think that's it, right? So you had a dream that you wanted to go and follow, and without the confidence to actually quit your job first of all, and then be bold enough to ask the question and really be deliberate in your actions, none of this would have happened.
Yeah.
Do you think that without that year abroad, you could have been able to go to that startup weekend and pitch your idea?
Definitely not. Like I said, the startup weekend had, I think it was 120 or 130 attendees. And I went along initially to hear what it was all about and what is this mysterious startup weekend where people pitch ideas and then, they win cool prizes and they work in teams. And so that part of me, I don't think would have ever even attended, let alone get up with a little bit of peer pressure from the MC, but get up and pitch an idea that I'm passionate about and then have it go through to the finals and then eventually come runner up. It was incredible. And it's something that, 3 years ago would have never been something that I thought that I was capable of.
Amazing.
So we can get the full context. Tell us about your idea.
Yeah, sure. So I am really passionate about sustainability and the circular economy. So I wanted to have an idea or a business and do something for my own that wasn't going to harm or bring anything new into a marketplace. So I also have trouble buying sustainable clothes online. It was a huge problem that I had, and I know a lot of my friends have it as well. So I pitched an idea for a sustainable clothing marketplace where we aggregate brands in one place so users can find them and shop them and compare brands. And we do the credibility checks.
And there was born Cloval.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I have so many questions for you through that journey. So you talked a little bit about in the beginning that you obviously spoke to your first employee and you talked about, where I want to be and I want to climb the corporate ladder. And it sounded when you first introduced that as a little bit of ambition. And we've talked about ambition's actually a good thing before. It's not a bad thing. But when it was actually presented to you or labeled as that, you kind of was like, no, that's not what I meant. And then did you really know at that point what you wanted to do in regards to the idea and sustainability? Or were you at that point trying to find your journey and you just were like, no, I just know I don't want to be that?
Yeah, definitely. I did not have that idea at that stage. And it was more about I need to do something to change, to follow a career path that I'm going to be passionate about, and something where I can come into my own as well. I felt like at this big corporate company, I was maybe fit into a structure rather than kind of creating that structure of my own.
That's amazing. I think that's a lot of where we don't naturally, not everyone comes up obviously with the idea when they're starting a startup to go, actually, I've got this idea and this is what I'm going to do and here's the 10 steps and here's how to go about it. It just becomes this, like, it sounds like you had a calling. It sounds like, I know I want to do something a bit more purposeful.
Yeah.
But you hadn't quite found it yet.
But you wasn't.
Yeah. And I think the purpose of a startup weekend is to start with an idea and, delve deep into what that could be. So you might pivot, you might change direction, and Cloval is still in early stages. We might expand into something a little bit different or take a pivot or whatever that looks like. But I think the bigger picture piece is doing something where I find purpose, where I can grow my own confidence as well and have something that I'm proud of.
I can really hear that. Do you think that's I'm just worried, like when you went on and then made the decision, okay, you've gone through this, you don't want to be doing that. So you moved on to the next one and then you actually proposed an alternative way of working, obviously, to align more to what you thought maybe you wanted to do.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you weren't offered that or they rejected, you actually had the foresight to actually go, actually, you know what, I do actually have the option and the choice here, which is also a big part of the courage, because a lot of people don't feel like they just follow the path.
Yeah.
They don't have a choice. But you said, no, actually, that's not suiting me because you can't provide me a remote, work experience.
Yeah.
And so you even made the decision to actually quit, which is a huge, huge change.
Yeah.
And I think it was not just that, but it was kind of, you had something presented to you that in 5 years' time you could be the general manager. Okay. And I've no doubt that you would have absolutely aced that. But actually to have the bravery to sit there and think, that's not actually what I want. I think there's a lot of people who might be listening to this who felt that before. And I've certainly felt that before.
Yeah.
But then it takes this next part, which is to actually have the confidence to be able to start putting something in action. To actually change your circumstances. And that's a really deliberate choice to make. And I think when it comes to our careers in particular, we tend to act quite passively, especially as women.
And we react.
We do. And we kind of go, we have loyalty and we say, oh, we're going to stay here and we're going to do this.
And it's going to change.
Or, you know, oh, well, that'd be great. I'd be silly to not leave this pathway that's been highlighted to me that looks great. And I think, you know, it's secure. It was definitely the easiest route for you to go and continue and do that. So what was it that actually made you go, no, I'm going to make a change now?
Yeah. And I think, you know, it wouldn't have been an easy path. Like that job was challenging, and it takes a lot of, you know, ambition and grit to get ahead in a company like that. But it was more about maybe taking a step back and thinking, what do I want? And I think especially as women, we tend to get in our own heads about what we want to do. So, you know, when I was 21, I definitely wanted the white picket fence, 3 kids, a corporate job, like that type of thing, because I think that's what I knew.
That's what Disney was selling you.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
definitely.
I have a whole other topic on that, but
no, and that's what I thought that I wanted. So I think one of the biggest things when I think of courage is breaking that mold, or what does it take to actually break that mold or think outside the box, because that's where I was 7 years ago, and that's not a bad thing. Like that's
an amazing thing, like Laura, like you touched on, that we make very unconscious, passive, reactive decisions. You've really demonstrated, and it's like you've thought through, that's actually not what aligns to what I want to be doing. I don't know what maybe I want to be doing, but I know if I take the next steps, that's not going to be it. And I think that is definitely down to the point where we all struggle. We talked about this in our first episode, where we actually struggle to think through, okay, what do I really want? Am I making a choice because the MC, like you said, I would prefer the MC throws the mic in my hand, or would I actually prefer to, I want my life to look a little bit like this, and I want to be doing this, which is actually utilizing your time a lot better on this planet. Because a lot of women, myself speaking, I'm in my late 30s, I'm thinking about that purpose conversation now. Well, maybe a few years ago, but in my 30s. Whereas I don't know what it is, but I'm just seeing that there's this whole trend, and obviously the entrepreneur trend, and people going out, and women who are taking that next step, and whether it's what is, I'm trying to figure out what is underneath you, like driving that. Because Laura, you said that obviously you're not naturally or want to be in the extroverted light, or you don't, public speaking is obviously, you said wasn't your thing. I wanted to, like, what's underneath there? How did you actually get that, build up that courage? What was going through your mind? What sort of what's your gut telling you? How do people have that level of confidence to take that step more proactively?
Yeah, it's such a tough one, because I think, you know, as an introvert, I still really like being social, and I still like to challenge myself. And so I think even at that stage, I was taking little steps to how I could push myself out of my own comfort zone. So for example, I would make sure I was in meetings with general managers or board members where I felt incredibly uncomfortable. And I don't know what it is about like an old white man in a suit, but they're so intimidating.
I know.
Yeah, and I'm not sure why, and I'm slowly getting over that they're humans, and they have kids, and they have problems. But
I think it's because we associate it to people we respect, maybe in our personal life as well. Like I know, I think of I wouldn't want to disrespect someone older or whatever it is, but yeah, it's definitely coming from a bit of, I think, respect, meaning you a bit more cautious with what you say and do. Maybe a bit intimidated by that.
Definitely. And I think it's back to those boxes that we put people in as well.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted the white picket fence and the 3 kids, and you know, that probably meant a man in a suit as well by my side, and that's like the person that you almost idolize.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily what you should be thinking. I think it's it comes back to a respect thing, like how you treat people and how you act around people. Why should you act any different next to a CEO versus anyone else, basically?
But the point is you put yourself in that situation.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing about Steph as well, which we haven't mentioned, is I've been to a 1,000,001 networking events with Steph, and she always puts her hand up to ask questions at the end, right? And even if she's terrified, which she normally is, and there's 100 people in the room, and I was at an event recently with her with 200 people in the room, and she had her hand up and she was determined to be heard. And that isn't a, hey, look at me, I'm here. That is her actively trying to build up her confidence to speak in front of big rooms of people, because every time she does that, she is aware that her comfort zone is getting a little bit bigger each time. And I think when we look at your story, right, this isn't for, as inspiring as it is, I do not want this to be taken out of context for a 22-year-old to be listening to this and kind of going, oh, okay, yeah, great, I can just do all of this. There's been a deliberate choice over years, every week, twice a week, 3 times a week, for every networking event that you've been to where you've put your hand up. Every time you've had an opportunity, like you said, at work, to go and sit in a room with someone who's going to make you feel a bit uncomfortable, you do it anyway. This has been a daily, deliberate, can I find something today?
A conscious decision.
To scare me, because then what it means is after a year of doing that, I'm going to have the balls to make that big decision and push myself out. And I think this is about consistent effort over time. And that's the amazing thing about it. And I think that's the impressive thing about it, that I'm very kind of risk-taking and blasé and like, let's just do it. And I can throw myself out there and kind of see what happens. But I actually think that's confidence without the courage behind it a lot of the time. Whereas I think Steph has actively gone and been the opposite personality to me, and has actually gone and built it, which I think is super impressive.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a level of self-awareness, right?
Yeah.
So it's a level of, it's like I understand that I'm challenged by this, or I feel a little bit of terror in these types of situations. So I'm going to consciously make that my action to try and overcome that, which is obviously building out that self-awareness. It's also I was listening to a segment on Kerwin Ray the other day on Instagram, I think it was. Anyway, he was talking about how you deal with anxiety and how do you work through anxiety. And the biggest thing he was talking about, first you've got awareness, and a lot of people just sit in the awareness and then they focus on the awareness. When you describe raising the hand and actually, taking the courage to actually speak up and make that a deliberate decision, even though you may be feeling terror, that is about creating the action plan for your own development and actually doing something about it. And the only way to change that feeling is by doing that.
Definitely. And it's all about creating change. Like anything in your life, it takes little by little. And what I always heard is that you see people that say they were terrified of public speaking, and then they're really good at it all of a sudden, and they don't go through, or they don't say, they're like, oh yeah, I just got better at it. Everyone's nervous at the start. But I don't think I've ever met anyone that said, oh, I'm going through that transition right now. Like I'm getting a little bit better, but I'm not there yet. And that's where I feel like I'm at. I still get, I don't know if maybe you've been there, where you get that kind of heart pumping adrenaline before you get up on stage or ask a question, but to a point where it's almost anxiety.
Debilitating. Yeah.
And I would push myself to that point and be like, oh, I'm going to try and turn this into adrenaline. Like this is a good thing.
And that's how people cope with it. So I think, well, maybe if Laura's experience. So I definitely, you already picked up, I was an introverted naturally, definitely growing up in my
fellow introverts.
Teens. Yes.
But you're a confident introvert.
But I'm actually in the middle of the spectrum. When I did my last psychiatric test, the
last time she was in the asylum.
The Mybriggs or whatever it is I was doing, I was smack bang in the middle. And that was, again, I definitely took, like you did, a conscious decision that, not that I would put myself up and speak more. I think I was just a fact gatherer, which is where my detailed comes in. So I'm all about facts. If I feel confidence in the facts that I can demonstrate, I can work through and If I feel confident with what I'm talking about, I'll speak up. If I have nothing to say, I'm like, I will not speak. So I'm more like that. I'm definitely not the person who raises my hands at network events, because if I feel like I need to know, unfortunately, I do default to Google. But I would prefer intimate conversations, because that's where I definitely get my energy from. So
you're a fact gatherer.
I am
your
a fact.
That's
my
fact
go-to.
gatherer to get your confidence. That's your confidence build.
Yep.
Right. And then you're more actively going to put yourself out your comfort zone and build it and build it and build it until it's no longer terrifying.
Yeah, because I get my confidence comes from a couple of different things, I think. So knowing that I can do it, or having the facts to be confident in what I'm saying. So making sure that it's a good question I'm asking in front of a big audience, or making sure I'm passionate about what I'm speaking about. But one of the big things where the fear comes from, and what I've learned to overcome it and to be confident, is a big part of why I think I'm scared of public speaking, and I'm still scared of it. I'm working on it. Is because I don't always think that I deserve to be there, or that I or people in the audience will respect what I have to say.
So it's a fear of failure, and it's a self-worth thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And I think that of a lot of things that you do, are you worth that promotion? Like, do you deserve it? And all of that comes back to your own confidence and your own self-respect as well. Also,
and we spoke about this a lot, and we actually spoke about this with Dr. Di, Dr. Diane Hanna, and that fear of kind of putting yourself out there, and fear of judgment. That all comes back to your core beliefs.
Yeah,
and if you've got something in there that is sitting deep down, then that is certainly going to dictate. But I actually love that you're pushing against it. I think that's the great thing about it.
And that's a self-awareness.
It is, and it's your choice. And I think we've got to remember that we are in the driving seats of our own lives, and everything that we do is a choice. And as soon as you kind of get that in your head, it can be quite confronting if you've been someone who's blamed the world for a long time. But once you actually take it in your head and you accept it, what you realize is that you've got all the power to do whatever you want to do. Really interesting fact, right? Really interesting fact, going back to that fear thing, was that Diane Hanna actually told me this. So she's a neuroscientist, incredibly clever lady.
Brilliant.
Absolute genius. And she told me something the other day that I have literally not been able to stop thinking about. So you know that our brains, the evolution of our brains, 99.6% of that evolution occurred when we were hunter-gatherers. So 0.4% is kind of...
Yes. That's crazy.
Yes, 99.6%. So we wonder why we make these decisions that we make, right? The reality is that when it comes to decision making, we are either trying to keep ourselves alive, so we're
That's
running
the fight or flight thing, right?
We're either running away from, but it's not just fight or flight. So it's we're either everything that we're doing. So our brain is constantly observing our surroundings, constantly. It's like every couple of seconds, we're constantly looking around, looking for threat, but we're also looking for reward. So what happens is we're either running away from threat, and we're trying to run to reward. And that's our brain. So that's why we get addicted to drugs and alcohol, because we get all these dopamine and serotonin hits and it feels great. That's reward for us. If people saying we're nice and we're great, and you get this whole celebrity crazy, and they're all, they're obsessed with each other and social media addicted. That's the reward bit. The threat now is no longer saber-toothed tigers. The threat for us is
competitors.
Another form of fear.
People judging us, people doing all of this. So actually, when you are trying to be courageous, because courage builds confidence, which we've established already, you're actually going against 99.6% of your brain, which is going, no, run away from it. That doesn't feel good. But I think what's interesting is though, once you do it though, and you get the reward of it and the buzz and the adrenaline and the dopamine of, oh my God, you just did that and you didn't think you could.
Yeah.
That starts getting addictive, which is why once it's an exponential kind of effect.
Yeah.
Once you do it, you get the buzz of it.
easier.
And I know with you, you're going to start looking forward to those stand-up stuff and having conversations. And I know with me, I love throwing myself out my comfort zone. Never used to, suffered terrible with anxiety.
Yeah.
And now I actually love the buzz of not knowing what the hell I'm doing, which a couple of years ago, if you'd have said, Laura, you're going to actively be like hooked on wanting to push yourself out your comfort zone and not know what the hell you're doing. I'd be like, who are you talking about? I don't know that business. So I think it's once you kind of, once you switch and you realize that this behavior is, you don't have anything to worry about. No one's going to kill you. You're not running away from threat, but actually you're running towards reward. It's new pathways that start forming in your brain, and then you get more confident and off you go.
Do you feel like this is happening?
I don't know. I mean, well, ask me in a couple of years and we'll see. That to me, at where I'm at now, it is a work in progress, right?
Yes.
And to be excited about getting up on stage, that still seems like a really, a light at the end of the tunnel, I guess, but still really far away. So
Is it getting easier?
it is getting a little bit easier, but it's still there. So yes, I think I would still be the same as you, right? In a couple of years, I'd look back and be like, oh, wow, I'm here. I'm excited. I'm getting energy from these things, which as an or somewhere on the middle range is hard to see because I still need my recharge time and my me time as well. So,
and is that because you're actually still measuring yourself potentially by what you think is a weakness, whereas maybe others like Laura absolutely doesn't perceive you to have a weakness in this department and you basically kicked ass at the pitch?
Yeah, I don't know.
Have you ever seen Steph actually publicly speak? She's amazing.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So the perception of
yeah.
that, like we talked about before, is, sometimes we have a tendency to measure ourselves by our weakness. We kind of judge that and we're still hooked onto that. And we've kind of maybe created a codependency on that weakness, right? And so you hold on to it and you keep thinking, oh, yeah, I'm still working on it. I'm still thinking. But if I was to look at you now, which I'd be beautiful, by the way, I just go, you know what? You seem like you're making the right calls for the right reasons and you're driving your own journey. And by the sounds of it, obviously in the pitch, that's exactly what happened because you actually got something out of that amazing, which is now your startup.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, definitely. Like, I think that it's slowly growing and it's slowly becoming more of a confidence piece and confidence in my own abilities as well. And I'm really excited and eager to see that grow because I think, we all have that level of self-doubt.
Yes.
And it's still definitely there. But you're right, it gets a little bit easier every time. And I'm not going to stop doing it either because, like you said, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and being aware of what I consider as my weaknesses is going to help me overcome those. And I think we are all a little bit overcritical of ourselves as well. So
completely,
I'm at a point of where I think that I'm doing, getting a little bit better at public speaking or a little bit better at this, but from what I'm perceived is a lot better. So I don't know. I don't really see that. And that's hard to see as, as an onlooker or about yourself.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's interesting to think about. I don't know.
Yeah, it's called a little bit of self-love, right?
Yeah.
Because we have a really good habit of promoting everyone else around us. But when it comes to me, like I used to be horrid at getting a compliment. And my girlfriend snapped me out of this one day. She was really said something confronting to me she just said, just be quiet and accept the compliment.
Yeah.
And I was like shook. I was like, oh. And so I went and prosecuted that mentally for the next 48 hours. And then I was like, oh my God, do I really do that? Because I don't want to be that person, like annoying, where someone gives you a compliment and then you just spend the whole, next 2-3 sentences trying to like dismiss the compliment.
Oh, I'm like that though. I really, really struggle with and it's not that I so when I take a compliment, it's not that I'm uncomfortable with hearing it. I don't mind hearing it. It's great. But I always sit there and think, why are we making a big deal out of something when that was the expectation? So I have a real issue with self-compassion stuff. But when we talk about confidence externally, I think it does start within. And I think it is something that you do kind of have to build. I would say I've always been very confident as a child all the way through my teens, all the way into my I've never had an issue with confidence. Don't get me wrong, I get nervous when I have to stand up and talk to people and all of that stuff. But I actually love the pump of adrenaline. An interview, I am that sick person that loves an interview. I love getting interviewed. I literally think it's the best thing ever. I'm just like, yeah, bring it on.
But whereas I'm the opposite. I'm like,
I love it.
Oh God, what do I have to like? Let me think about I can't even remember yesterday. Now let me think about what I am horrid.
I love the challenge of it.
I just speed straight through it because unlike what you've just said, you don't mind a compliment. When I hear someone compliment me, I'm like, oh my God. Like, can you just stop? Turn away. Where's the rock? Let me go hide. I hate it.
But do you think there's a difference between inner confidence and outer confidence? Do you think there's a difference with that? Because I would say inner confidence wise, I reckon I struggle with a lot. And I think people will be quite surprised by how much I struggle with that. Outer confidence though, I can just throw it on.
I'm surprised you saying that right now. Like, I've never thought that for a second. I've known you for 6 years.
No,
so
but
that's crazy.
I think that's really spot on. I do think it's two separate things because I think we're all having something to work on, right?
Yeah.
So, and I've reflected a lot in my last 10 years, I would suggest, on my whole career. I've had a few failures in my career and I've had like, oh my God, aha moments, forced, not proactive decisions, where I've just basically quit something out of, necessity because I was over it rather than actually taking a proactive step towards something great that I wanted to do. And during that whole time I think through and I go, okay, I thought I was good at this. And then when something really rocks your core internally and you start to analyze it a bit, you realize actually, you know what? I'm good at this in front of everyone else, but underneath I might be crumbling. Underneath I might just be holding it together. But everyone sees that facade. So I don't think it's about there is two different personalities or there's an inner and external. I think it's actually about we're all just trying to wake up and do our best. And our best at the time that we're looking at it, which is in your 20s or your 30s or wherever it is what we see with what we understand of ourselves. And we're still just trying to work that out. What's our purpose? Why are we here? Which is also a thing about the hunter-gatherer, right? About trying to find meaning and purpose and progress. Because you have to find progress as a human in order to survive. That's our instinct.
Yeah.
So I think for me, I think it's about like, I don't like compliments. I don't feel confident in talking a lot about things that I've done well because I'd prefer, like you, to skim past because that was what I planned to do. So why are you talking about it? But it's also a bit of a shame thing. So it's like the tall poppy syndrome where it's like, oh, I don't feel comfortable if someone says, oh, you've done a great job, because I'd just be like, yeah, I know, I plan to do that. Can we just move on? I'm remunerated equivalently. Like, let's not talk about it. Well,
yeah. So one of the great ways to deal with imposter syndrome, actually, and I've seen this in two people. The first was my sister, who was very, very shy growing up, and started doing drama classes when she was about 10, 11. And she just came out of her shell and everyone couldn't believe it. Like, she just went on there, was doing all these crazy accents and just had no issue in getting on that stage and rocking the stage. And she'd barely spoken in school, in the classroom, and had a handful of friends and no one could believe it. So I think that there was her, she tapped into another person and kind of put on this other mask. And you hear of that a lot.
Yeah, I definitely do. You do it, you fake it till you make it, right?
Exactly. So that was her way of doing that. And that really, the more drama she did, the more confident she got. And then the more it started to spill into the real Jenny. In her life. The other person is Beyonce Knowles.
Yes.
Yeah. So Beyonce has I'm a big Beyonce fan. And Beyonce has Sasha Fierce. So Beyonce, have you ever watched a documentary or anything where Beyonce's talking? She's actually quite a boring human. Like, and as much as I adore her, like, I literally am her number one fan. Like, no one can ever.
Happy with that. She doesn't mean that.
I adore that woman.
Elaborate,
But
Laura.
what I realised is that I actually adore Sasha Fierce, who's her alter ego that gets on that stage and does all the things that we love Beyonce for. And then when she goes and sits and has that conversation and it's all like, oh, and you're like, who is this person? And then she's on stage and she's Sasha Fierce. So she talks about that, right? She talks about Sasha
but I
Fierce being
think
her alter ego.
she's also evolved that. I don't think she used Sasha Fierce to build the confidence to show her. But it wasn't just because she didn't have confidence. She's a perfectionist, right? She actually is very fierce about the stage and the performance.
Yes, she is.
So she created, she has, her expectations are very high. And I actually think that expectations and what she demonstrates on stage is her vision that she has, which the quiet, more calculated, more serious person, which is the same person, always had under there. It's just that when it comes to show, that's the show, and I'm providing an experience for the world. Sasha Fierce, and that's how I think she labeled it, because I think I look at it as the same person, because if I was to look at your story and you're an introvert, I'm also introvert, my preference, where I get my energy from, you know, that I'm very calculated, I'm very diligent and disciplined, right? And I can come across as one personality, and then when it comes to my day job and when I'm at work, people don't believe I'm an introvert at all.
Yeah, and watching your videos of your podcast and everything like that, I would have not guessed, honestly.
Yeah, no, but I can actually literally sit alone on an island for probably 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And
Same.
God. No,
I would be fine. I would be fine.
I would literally call it.
I would have built a startup, but I would be fine.
We'll be stuck on an island and we'll sit on opposite sides and just like hang out.
It's fine.
It's good.
I would be fine, because I love the energy. I love thinking. I love I just love it. It's just, and it's not horrid, but when I think, if I had to be around someone talk 24/7, that would be horrid for me.
Yeah. I do need both as a middle.
You need both.
I do need both, but I could easily do that, whereas I don't think you could.
No, I don't.
2 weeks.
2 days. I think 2 days. 2 days is my maximum. And then I'd just be like, okay, where's the phone and who am I calling?
Okay, so you're not going to make the coconut with the face and you'll just be talking to that and survive.
No. I'd have swam out there already and have been like talking to fishes. And,
on the back of sharks.
Yeah. Just to have a conversation with someone. But I think the kind of the whole point of all this is, it doesn't really matter who you are and kind of what you're naturally inclined to do. I think you can make a deliberate choice to build your confidence.
Spot on. Yeah.
And that involves pushing yourself out your comfort zone.
Yeah.
It involves taking every opportunity that you can.
Yeah.
And you know, I think building inner confidence, which is going to come out. And you know what? Even if you're terrified, put on your Sasha Fierce face and just pretend. And it's
I tell
fine.
my nieces that all the time. I was like, okay, I know you don't think you can do this. You don't feel like you're confident to do this, but strap it on. Sorry, I shouldn't say the strap it on comment. Can't help myself. But, get your lady nuts out and actually go out there and just get it done. Get it done like a boss, because unfortunately the world is not going to wait for you to get the confidence. And it sounds like you already did that.
Yeah, exactly.
Where I wanted to ask, obviously you weren't going, I'm on a mission to be a public speaker. I'm not on a mission to do this. I didn't think you were, but you were doing this for a reason. What was the reason?
For me, it comes down to confidence. Like, I want to be more self-assured. I want to be more confident in what I do daily. And I don't really know what my career is going to be in 5-10 years time, but I know that I want to be confident in myself and I want to be able to handle things that come at me. And I feel like I've been kind of pushed down a lot. And breaking out of that to be able to say, like, tackle whatever comes at you is what I want to be able to do.
So one last tip for everybody, from everybody in terms of our listeners around confidence, what would you say?
I would say figure out what you actually want. Like, what do you want to become more confident in? So for me, it is public speaking and getting in front of people, because that's where I see I see a little bit of a weakness and I want to improve it. But that's not necessarily what everyone's not good at. Like, potentially you want to be really good at sports, but you're too scared to kind of get out there and do it. Like, just take little tiny steps, baby steps, push yourself out of your comfort zone bit by bit, and it does get easier. And I'm not a killer public speaker that's standing there saying 2 years ago they were nervous. I'm still nervous, but I'm getting a little bit better. So progress does happen.
That's beautiful.
I love that. What did you say?
I don't think, so obviously I'm a little bit older.
Not much.
Not much. No, of course, no. But I think for me, I don't think the discomfort goes away. So that's number one. But I don't think I'm not fearful of any of it, and I don't feel terror at all. In fact, I can switch it on any point. But having to speak in public and do it, I kind of look at it like sometimes like a chore now, unless it's about something I'm passionate about. And then it comes across like nothing for me. So
That's good to know.
So I think maybe that could be your immediate future. So I don't know. For some topics, I'm still very uncomfortable and I don't even want to do it. And I'll obviously try and delegate where I can. But for a lot of the topics, if I'm passionate and I'm obviously doing this and I'm passionate about this, and it's obviously talking to two people at the moment and a few more audience. But I think you kind of, if you're really passionate about something and you want to do it, it slowly goes away, that fear and that nervousness, and it becomes exciting and a challenge, which sounds like it's more like down your stream. Laura.
Yeah, I think I'm a confidence junkie. I get the adrenaline kick. I would say if you want to build confidence, because I'm not confident with everything. There's things that absolutely terrify me, but I just see it as, oh, great, another challenge I've got to overcome. Like every time I get fearful, I actually run into it. It's like a sick disease.
But that's because I think you feel like you have no choice. You've got to get it done.
Yeah, it is. I just love pushing myself.
And thrive off the adrenaline.
I do. Yeah, definitely.
I would love to get to that point where I'm, using that adrenaline for good rather than for being anxious.
Oh, it can be dangerous.
Yeah.
Like it can be dangerous. I'm not saying I'm not the role model of mental health by any means, let me tell you. But I would say one tip for confidence would be to surround yourself with people. You are a reflection of the 5 people you spend your time with. Surround yourself with people who can build your confidence, and who really appreciate you for who you are, and who can challenge you and push you, but are respectful towards you. And I think, inspire you, because if you waste your days with people who don't, what's the point?
Exactly.
So I think, definitely said like a true extrovert, surround yourself with great people.
No, but I think that's really important even for an introvert, right? So that's a really good tip, because it's about supporting with the people you trust, the tribe around you, and getting, again, like introverts are about where they get their energy from. Not that they're just quiet people, but they basically draw their energy and recuperate through alone time or through an intimate group, which is definitely hit to what you're saying, right?
So surround yourself with the great people. Everyone feels good and feels more courageous and confident, and like they can take on the world after a conversation with someone who's inspiring. So surround yourself with with those types of people. Speak to those people. And I think if you're a confident person listening to this, then try and inject some of your confidence in other people who don't have it as well. I think that's kind of the duty and your responsibility to do that.
Agree.
And
have
shut
awareness
up and shut up around a table. Where if you have got people who aren't as confident, because that's another thing. I think, as an extrovert and someone who's very confident and has no issue talking, obviously, I'm always aware when there's someone in the room who isn't as confident, and try and engage them and bring them into the conversation and shut up when they are wanting to talk.
Yes.
Because I think that's important to give them the opportunity to speak as well, because it might be that they've sat there for the last 20 minutes thinking, should I say something yet? Should I say something?
And they do, I can tell you that. And then now when you get to my age, it's like, okay, I don't care anymore. No.
No, I know, but I think to that as well, you have to be a little bit cautious around who you get your advice from. Some of my top 5 people really hate public speaking, and it's not something that they, that's not their choice of gaining confidence. It's not what they want to do. So I'm really careful not to say, oh my God, I'm so scared to go out on stage in front of them, because they might say, you don't have to do it. It's okay. That's fine. And so you have to be careful about people like that, because if I was going to be nervous about going out on stage, I might, I might go to you, Laura, and say, get my confidence from there. And then when I need support from someone for a different reason, I might go to that person. So I think just being aware of the people in your life, what their personalities are, because it's not wrong. It's just you want to be built up in those different areas, and they'll be there to support you for different.
That is
different
fantastic.
areas.
And that's just like what you're experiencing now with the startup.
Yeah.
You're going to draw your conclusions or get advice from the people who are specialists, who are doing well in that field. And that's the smart thing to do. But yeah, because we potentially have networks who are like-minded, and that we can fall into that tendency and get steered down the wrong direction. That's great advice.
Cool.
So I think overall what we've discussed today, confidence is very different for everybody. It takes time to build, and it is about you taking a very proactive and deliberate choice to go out there and build it, whether that be you pushing yourself out your comfort zone and actually really stepping into opportunities that you would have normally said no to, whether you're trying to go out and find ways in which you can push yourself or people around you that can help you bring that out of you. And also work on your own internal confidence as well. And whatever it is that you're going to do to push yourself out your comfort zone, it's got to be something you're passionate about, because that will keep you going.
And I think the only thing I would add is the confidence is not just about confidence for the sake of getting confidence. It's because where you're trying to get to, whatever that may be.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you don't have to know where that is. But yeah, if you're putting in this effort, taking these risks and pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, make sure, it's for something that you're going to be passionate about in the future as well.
Well, thank you, Steph.
Thank you,
Pauline.
Yeah.
Cheers to
Cheers.
confidence. Thanks, ladies.